Welcome along, everybody. It's the 16th of January 2020. I'm out here in East Brisbane with a podcast with two very, creative gentlemen, two gentlemen with a great cause. Welcome along to the From the Valley podcast, Ed Ross and Daniel Allen of Trademutt.
Thank you very much for having us, mate.
Thank you very much for doing this up in your studio here today out at East Brisbane. I guess where we like to start the podcast first is just a bit of background information about both of you guys. You can obviously share as much as you want to share.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with Ed, if you like. Ed, your background, you're obviously a Queenslander.
Yeah, born and bred in Longreach, Queensland. Born and brought up on sheep and cattle places out there with my folks, and did boarding school from grade 6 in Toowoomba for 2 years, and then to Churchy here in Brisbane for senior school, and then out to the Territory for a few years, and a little bit of education at Marcus Oldham down in Geelong, and then I did a mature age apprenticeship and met this bloke here.
Yeah, so Daniel, whereabouts were you born? Where did you come from?
St Margaret's Hospital in Surrey Hills in Sydney. I was delivered by my auntie. She pulled me out by my ears. That's why they stick out a little bit. That's what she told me anyway.
I've seen a lot worse.
That's what she told me anyway growing up. Thank you. That's the nicest thing anyone could have said to me. No, true story though, because that's what she told me. That's what I told everyone at school for a long time. So, born and bred in Sydney. Finished school, got into a carpentry apprenticeship, and when I was a second year apprentice, I was ready to quit my apprenticeship because I just wasn't finding any good work. I just didn't feel like it was landing the way it was supposed to be for me. And an opportunity to work for a builder up in Brisbane for 2 weeks brought me up here. 2 weeks turned into 10 years. So that brings us here today. So I kind of just came up and stayed. So I'm certainly not a Queenslander, but I...
No. Is it New South Wales versus Queensland come state of origin time here?
Of course, yeah.
It's
but we
not come origin time.
It's all the time. Yeah, it's all the time.
Every day of the week for us.
Every day of the week, fair enough. That's good. So a bit of background, I guess, Ed. What was growing up? What sports did you get into?
What? Sorry,
sports.
Well, I was on the land for most of it, but Mum used to drive my sister and I sort of 80 k's one way, so 160 k's round trip twice a week for swimming training and at Muddabara. When I was doing School of the Air, and then
she'd be spewing if you drowned.
Yeah, I know she would be spewing if I drowned. But we used to do a lot of swimming, and then sort of grade 4 and 5, I used to be pressuring Dad to drive me into Longreach, which is like a 400k round trip to go in and play cricket, and he got jack of that, so he sent me off to boarding school. So it was mainly cricket and and that swimming growing up.
And I guess was it working on the farm your first job, or was something else?
Definitely helping Dad. I still think back to how I was ever able to do what I did. So when I was sort of 7-8 years old, I was driving around in a Suzuki Ute with a 22 semi-automatic rifle and a dog, and checking, we were living on 113,000 acres, and I'd be out there cleaning troughs and doing all that stuff by myself, and loved it. Just thrived on work out in the bush and that sense of responsibility. I just always loved it, and riding horses every afternoon and motorbikes. It was great.
Do you miss sort of going out there? Do you miss it?
No, I was only telling Mum this morning. She was in here packing shirts for me, and I said, we're just sort of talking about, would never have thought we'd end up doing what I'm doing now is sort of my first real business. But and she said, do you miss it? And I said, no, I actually have not missed it at all. Like when I was working after school in the Territory for those 3 years, I was right into camp drafting and running stock camps with blokes, and I just sort of don't look back on it now wanting to do it sort of ever again, really. Like I'm happy with what I'm doing, and living in the city, it doesn't really faze me. Love it.
Beautiful. So Daniel, what about you? Any sport that you had or played growing up much, or was it computer games?
I was a very active kid. Kid.
Computer games.
I was outside. I was not so much in the computer games. I mean, I definitely had a PlayStation, but it was felt like I'd play FIFA, soccer. So I played soccer. I played outdoor soccer for 2 teams. I played indoor soccer for another team. I did athletics, long jump was my jam, and cricket as well. one season I'd be a batter, the next season I'd be a bowler, and sometimes I'd be a decent all-rounder, but it never all fell into place at once. So,
And what was your first job?
Delivering pamphlets for Chiro's Chicken Shop down at from Westfield Burwood. He used to pay me $20 to take a pile of pamphlets and deliver them, so I'd take the $20, go straight down to the servo, buy an anaconda snake, and I'd take the pamphlets to a set of units that I knew I could offload. I could offload them all real quick. I delivered.
Were they even in his precinct? Were they in his area?
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah, definitely. But like, I didn't jam all of them into one box. I'd put an individual one into all the boxes, but I'd just go to all the unit blocks because I knew I could get rid of them all real quick. So
savvy.
I mean, he didn't say not to, but he cottoned on after I was back pretty quick for another stack of pamphlets.
So I guess, and did you guys meet sort of fairly young in your adult life? Were you sort of, that how you guys, when did you meet?
No, we only met end of 2014. So I...
5-6 years ago, yeah.
Shit, yeah it is, isn't it? 2020. So yeah, I started mature age apprenticeship when I moved back to Brisbane, and Dan...
And that was carpentry?
Yeah, yep. Carpentry, and Dan was he and I started working for the builder in Brisbane out at a job at Kenmore on the same day. It must have been September, October 2014.
Yeah, I was a couple of years out of my trade, and Ed was just, I think it was your first...
My first day on a building site.
First day on a building site, and I'd never heard anything like this bloke over here. He really was fresh off cattle stations. He sounded like it too. Me coming from Sydney, I just never... And I was like, wow, what is this guy? And so to think that we forged a partnership and a mateship and are here now, it does blow me away, because it just... There's not too many reasons.
Those sort of things, I mean, that can happen from the most unlikely. In some cases, this is a great story that the backgrounds are so completely opposite. When it comes to where you guys came from, big city versus country, and now we're in a big town here in Brisbane. So and basically, starting up your own business, which we'll talk about as well, but that's really, really good. So I guess Trademutt, so just for the listeners there, so Trademutt, tell us a bit about what Trademutt actually is, and I guess how long it's been going for and when it started, that sort of thing.
So the brief one is Trademutt is a social enterprise workwear company designed by tradies and for blue-collar workers of all kinds. We make bright, leery shirts designed to act as a catalyst to starting conversations about mental health and making a visible issue impossible to ignore.
That's the one liner.
That's the one liner. Obviously, being tradies ourselves, that's the background for the work where we always had on a building site. I don't know if you know, but sometimes you do quite monotonous jobs, and to get yourself through the day, you talk quite a lot of nonsense with each other and talk about different ideas. I mean, as everyone does. What would you do with $1 million if you won the lotto? All that kind of stuff. But yeah, another idea that we had was a workwear, a line of funky workwear, because we were sick of wearing the same old stuff to work. So that was its own idea.
Which it's obviously coming to fruition in the last couple of years.
Exactly right, yeah. In 2015, working together, that's when one of my best mates took his life. So that was obviously a real shock, and working together, Ed was my probably number one support network day to day, spending so much time together. So we obviously bonded quite a lot over that, and so that was something that shook obviously both of us up, but for different reasons. He wasn't a mate of Ed's, but Ed got to process and see the way I processed that whole scenario, I suppose. So it was quite a shock for both of us in different ways. So that was the start of the mental health journey, and then tying the two together, those two ideas. We wanted to do the workwear, and we started to explore it. We learned about social enterprise and using profit for purpose, and how we could actually make a positive social impact through business. And that was the start of it. That's how we got going. The two ideas came together, and we've never looked back.
No, that's really, really good. So I guess workwear, it's an interesting line of sort of business to get into, really, when you think about it. It's, retail, generally the retail out there is always very competitive. Clothing has always been a competitive. Workwear is even competitive Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, there's just everyone's doing the same thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are copying one another. This is certainly a lot more. This is original idea. This is something that you guys have come up with. This is something that's you've obviously got different designs.
Yep.
Even you've got different names for the different shirts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're just doing it completely sort of different. Like we're a workwear company, but we're basically just a beacon of getting conversations started about mental health. But we're sort of making an impact in a few different ways. Like the workwear always needed to be outside the box to be able to make the impact with the conversations we wanted to have and to stand out. The lairier the design, the better. So it's sort of anyone that sees one of these work shirts, you sort of can't get them anywhere else.
Yeah.
And there's nothing really out there. We thought straight away when we brought these out, people would be copying us straight away. But we haven't seen anything else sort of come out in the workwear industry as yet that's sort of adding variety. So we're still sort of the only people doing it, which is surprising.
And to your point, the workwear industry, any industry is competitive, right? Isn't it? So it's just a matter of
you've got a great niche.
Point of difference.
A few points of difference there.
And I think anything done differently and for the right reasons can really have an impact and can really stand out. I think it doesn't matter what you do if you believe in what you're doing and you do it in an authentic and genuine and a different way. I suppose you can get cut through into any market. So something.
So I mean that's certainly starting up your own business, especially something like this. You guys should be congratulated for where you've got this business to at the moment.
Thank you.
It's certainly very, very well. It's starting to get well known around the place. Obviously, we all know Brisbane's a small place.
Tiny.
It's teeny
very
tiny.
Yeah.
And we just had a chat before the podcast started, just basically saying some of the people that that we both know, and that you've been on a podcast of a friend of mine, Career Development Centre, and been on their podcast, and they've got a focus on mentally well workplaces, and they're a great business, and they, what they stand for, is making a huge difference out there to workplaces in Australia, and this here is also making huge differences, especially we're only talking more the construction industry, I'm assuming, but it's certainly making a lot of difference to people out on sites and that sort of thing as the word gets out there.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I think the mental health conversation's evolved a lot, and everyone has a story to tell, and everyone's experienced something, even if it's not suicide directly. Everyone knows someone or has experienced their own struggles, and I think what we've found out is that people are dying to talk about this stuff. That's actually a really bad pun, but people want to talk, and these things have given them an opportunity to really do it in a fun way. I think that's been one of our biggest areas where we've cut through. It's been a fun way for people to be able to relate to the topic, and we're quite proud of that.
Yeah, no, that's really, really good. So we talked about Brisbane being a small place. Now, I guess the other thing I've noticed, you guys have started your own podcast. To tell the Valley, from the Valley podcast list, what's the name of your podcast?
Trademutt's 120 Grit Podcast.
Rough enough to take the surface off without tearing it apart.
Yeah, the podcast for the working class, we like to call it.
Excellent. So make sure you look that up. That's on, I guess, everywhere on the internet.
It's on all the apps. App Store.
Podcasts,
App Store.
Google.
Podcast.
Podcast
apps.
All the popular podcast platforms and YouTube,
So 25 episodes in. How have you found that experience?
Love
awesome.
it. Love it.
Awesome.
It's
I can just tell you guys, because when I listened to that episode when you were on the podcast a year or so ago, what we were mentioning before, you guys did seem to enjoy, being on the podcast.
Yeah.
So it was fairly natural if you guys wanted to do your own sort of podcast, you'd be very good at it, So,
thanks, mate. Well, I mean, we just sort of wanted to be able to have the conversations we want other people having, basically on a daily basis. So, we've had quite a broad range of guests from, mates of ours, right up to Darren Lockyer and Greg Martin, David Shillington. Had Bo Robinson on yesterday. So, it's basically a really broad cross-section of people that are just sharing their real stories. So, And
I think that first episode you did, that was the guy from Maths, wasn't it?
Yeah, Mick Gould. Yeah, big fella. Legend of a
That would have
bloke.
been funny.
Yeah, he's a unit. He's got some good insights into what
I've
goes
never
on.
watched an episode of Maths in my life.
Dan's
but
lying.
I had to pretend like I knew what was going on. So it was a little bit hard to keep up with. But Mick Gould is a true character.
Yeah, he is how he is on TV, I guess.
He's a dead
Yeah.
set legend.
Yeah.
He's a champion of a bloke, Big Mick.
Good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a bit about your podcast. You like listening to other people's podcasts. You probably don't. You said probably before the year you probably don't get as much time to
I listen to TED Talks a bit, but I only listen to it in the car, sort of. And I only live 5 minutes around the corner, so I basically listen to it whenever I go out to my parents-in-law out at Pittsworth. Normally, put a podcast on. I like TED Talks. Listening to a bit of Joe Rogan.
I like Joe Rogan too. I like the Mike Tyson podcast.
Yeah, Mike Tyson podcast is pretty good,
He's
actually.
an absolute cracker. His episode with what's the guy's name from Jackass? Steve-O.
Yeah.
My God, yeah. So, but yeah, no, there's lots of great content out there. So there's something out there for everyone these days.
Yeah, no, Joe Rogan's definitely one of the inspirations behind my podcast.
The king, the podcast king.
He is the podcast king, probably the most listens in the world, I'd assume. The guests that he has on, obviously at least one or two a week you might want to listen to, but they go for 3 or 4 hours, a lot of them.
Yeah, it's tough.
So unless you're going all the way out to where you're going,
Yeah.
you may get through a whole episode, or it's a good way to send yourself to sleep sometimes.
Exactly, yeah.
Done that before.
Yeah.
Nah.
So you listen there and the wife's going, what are you still listening to Joe Rogan for?
Exactly.
Get off the fucker.
Yeah, but he's got a lot of good, the way they do it, the way he does it and cuts it up into snippets of gold and different little bits of...
You can do, or they've got an editor that sort of does all that.
Exactly,
Really good,
yeah. And so there's some really, even related to the conversations that we're having, there's lots of really good insights on his podcast around the mental health space and motivation, goal setting, all that kind of stuff. So,
Yep.
and he really speaks to our audience as well. So I think it's quite relatable, and that's what's
Yeah.
the most important.
The Tyson Fury one he
Yeah,
did.
I was going to mention that. It was actually right on the tip of my tongue.
Tyson
Fury. That was one of the best podcasts out there that he did.
Yeah.
And it's
phenomenal.
certainly his journey about mental health.
Yeah.
I bought his book recently. It's just come out. If you guys haven't got it,
Yeah, right.
Worth buying. It does sort of probably go into a little bit what actually he said on the podcast as well with Joe, but a very good story. It's a believable story, and it just shows how he sort of dealt with the demons.
Yeah.
It came back to a few different things, and then became exercise was really a thing that really got him motivated and sort of got his mental state improved. And what did you think of that?
Yeah, well, I suppose the interesting story about him was that he had everything, and he still didn't feel fulfilled.
That's right.
And then he was sort of
the perception is that he's got everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he was obviously fueling that void with drugs and alcohol, and was just in a spiral out of control. And then that day when he was going to take his life. And his whole thing is, he's quite a religious person, and that was a big thing that brought him sort of back from, his lowest point. And, he was just sort of talking about how his faith and finding rejuvenation and resetting his whole life with, exercise and goal setting, and also diet was a huge thing for him too.
Definitely diet, that's for sure. It was at 400 pounds at one stage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So to get back down to 260 in fighting shape, and
he was a keto diet man.
Yeah, well, I'm a keto. I'm on the keto diet the last 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, it's good. I like the diet. Have you ever been on it? Or?
Nah. Our the CEO for the charity was on it for about 3 days.
Yeah, 3 days.
That's recorded now.
I think it's one of those things. If you've got the mentality, I look at carbs differently. I just look at, even apples. I don't. That's evil.
Yeah, right.
It's got to that point, because I just know what's how much the carb content that's in apples, for example, and a lot of people wouldn't realise that unless they sort of look at those things.
I do love a good apple.
Yeah, I used to probably eat apples, but not that regularly anyway. So it's not a big thing. I'm missing.
What kind of apples? What sort of apples are we talking? What's your
Pink Lady Man.
Oh, I'm a Pink Lady Man too.
Yeah.
I can't.
Lance runs those red galas.
Oh, you know what?
I'll divorce her for that.
You never trust a Granny Smith person. Don't ever
Right,
trust.
just eating a green apple.
Straight up.
Yeah,
That's not all.
Golden Delicious was what I used to like back in the.
Oh, delicious. Interesting
Apples.
choice.
When it comes to apples and that sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah, so so for 25 episodes in, that's you guys are obviously on the fast track to getting your podcast really out there. I think you guys have certainly got a good topic and a good story, and then getting the good guests along certainly is going to make you guys should be able to get it sort of shared out there quite widely.
Interestingly, yes, good guests, for sure, helps us get some airtime or whatever, but some of our most listened to podcasts have been people who don't have a profile, but just have a profound story, which has been really interesting, that really raw, genuine sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think the nice thing I've found with podcasts and the 80 episodes or so, that it does come down to the person that's on the podcast, how they share it as well. Like you can share it as well as you can, but if they've got a good network and they share it around, it certainly generates a lot more listens for the podcast as well.
Most definitely, yeah.
So, and with you guys, you've got about, I think it's 14,000 Facebook followers.
Yeah, actually,
roughly,
that's right.
About that.
So that's really, really good, guys. That's fantastic. So that's only going to keep growing.
It's amazing the way it works with social media, isn't it? So that's where it's what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. Just keep the socials going.
Yeah. One of the things that I did listen, I've listened to a bit of you and done a little bit of research, but one of the most important things that you sort of bring a message across as is being a good bloke. Okay?
That's on our web. Is that still on our website? That was always on our website originally.
Yeah, it is on our website.
I've done a little bit of research, and this is a theme that I've come across. Being a good bloke is really, really important, and if you can sort of look at yourself and know that you've been a good bloke, that's just going to basically give you more self-esteem and that sort of thing. And it's a way of sort of keeping yourself in check. Or
I suppose
I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, well, I suppose our thing is that, you should pretty much know whether or not you're being a
good bloke.
A good bloke.
Well, I think people do know. People definitely do know. Like we just had Darren Lockyer on the podcast, and he said to us one of the most profound things that he said was that has carried him throughout his career is respect. This is coming from an Australian sporting icon and who's reached every the highest of heights in rugby league, and his number one thing is respect for people, no matter what, no matter who they are, throughout his career, for his coaches, for his fellow players, for the young guys. And that was just, and I think that ties in perfectly with being a good bloke. It's about a level of respect that you just show to other people, no matter what their situations may be. And I think when it comes to the mental health space, that's what I think holds a lot of blokes back, that fear of shame. But if you can actually sort of allow, show them that respect and that non-judgmental approach, that's what we mean by being a good bloke.
No, that's a good message to sort of put through, I think, and it does it gives people looking at you guys a bit more that they should respect that is what I'm saying. Where I come from, that's important, and that always try to get out there and do the right thing, whether it's for my clients, whether it's for my friends.
It's a very Australian thing, it's like being fair income.
It's fair income. It's a very Australian thing, and it's great that all connects the dots for what you guys are all about.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's really what that. So I guess having a look at a few other things, I just had a look at is you a rabbit supporter?
Massive
rabbits, even you're born in Queensland.
Yeah, born in Longreach, yeah.
But
go figure.
What about, who's your team?
I'm a Tiger. I'm a West Tiger. I was a Balmain Tiger. I've got a story about going for them, but I'm not as diehard as NRL supporter as this guy here. He's going to end up commentating rugby league one day, potentially, or at least on his own radio show.
My goal is to have a director, be a director for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. That'd be phenomenal.
Yeah, that's excellent. I mean, commentating, that's something you could probably do. There's no doubt about that. I've sort of done a little bit of that with.
I'll throw my TV out the day that he commentates.
Oh, okay.
On record.
Yeah, I did a. One of my other passions is mixed martial arts. Like I like following the mixed martial arts.
Massive UFC fight coming up this Sunday.
Yeah, there is. Well, we can talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I love mixed martial arts and the UFC and all of that sort of thing. And anyway, I've got some mates that I've had on the podcast. You can listen to those episodes if you want. But there's Ben Ten Nguyen, who's a Vietnamese origin fighter based in Brisbane, was in the UFC. And also Damien Beatdown Brown, who's... you know Damien?
I don't, but that's a great nickname. If your nickname was Beatdown, I'd be pretty stoked with that. There's far worse nicknames out there.
Beatdown.
So both these guys were in the UFC. Damien's a really... You guys would love him because he's very Australian. Like, he's like the Australian of Australians.
Yeah.
He's... He's got his own gym now up at Brendale. So he's an ex-army background, so he's been through some
PTSD.
We'll have to get him on.
So get him on. He'd love it. He loves podcasts. Or he loves being on podcasts as well. He's been on mine a couple of times. But yeah, so those boys, we went to Gladstone about a year and a half ago. We went to a local mixed martial arts event, and it was Ben, Damien, and myself, all the three commentators. It was quite funny. Yeah, it was good. But
did you enjoy commentating?
Yeah, I love doing it. Actually did it for that mob a couple of times.
Yeah, nice.
Here at the Toilet as well, which is the Mansfield Tavern, by the way.
The Toilet.
The Toilet. Yeah, have you ever been there?
I've been in
That's a pisser. Pardon the pun.
That's what they call it. Stinks like a toilet.
Yeah, no, I can.
I've definitely been to plenty of pubs that smell like a toilet.
Yeah.
The Royal Exchange in Toowong smells like a toilet. Thank you, Todd Sharp.
Yeah, get him on there. But so they're commentating. That's well, I like doing that. I mean, as I said, as you guys know now, I love getting out there and networking. So with the Valley Chamber, we always do something with that every month and that sort of thing. But you guys obviously getting out there and networking to be able to get people on your guests or people. So that's really that's great as far as that's concerned. I guess who's your? You can each answer this question separately if you like or whatever. But who are some of your inspirations? I guess in starting the business and inspirations in to be able to get to where you've got to so far in your journey.
Well, I mean, for me personally, to be able to wear the letters YWA on all of our shirts, that's a tribute to my mate who took his life. So that's a reference to Liverpool Football Club. You'll never walk alone, and that was his team. He lived for that team. So, and that's an awesome message for the mental health space. But something that makes me really proud is that there's thousands of people out there who walk around wearing that on their shirts, and they might not directly know that that's a tribute to Dan, but yeah, that is quite inspiring for me. Yeah. And that's obviously come about as a result of all of this. So yeah, that's something that makes me proud and is quite inspiring.
Yeah. I mean, from my side, like from the business side, I know I've always been obsessed with business. I don't have really like a person that I sort of was inspired by or anything like that. I just remember always growing up, just always being intrigued with what people did, why they did it, and how they did it. And then basically every job I ever had, I was always a pain in the ass, annoying, asking people why stuff was happening the way it was, and I was always intrigued of why there was different ideas of doing stuff and why they wouldn't do this and why they were doing that, and basically I was never in a position really to have any control over anything that was going on in any of the businesses I was working in. Yeah, good. So basically, as soon as Dan and I started doing weekend cash jobs, and I probably still didn't have much control at all because Dan was running around running the show. But we're setting this up, and I've just been obsessed with it, and I've got so many other things. I'm working on other stuff now. Obsessed with it.
What other stuff are you working on?
Well, I can't give too much away, but one of them's around podcasting. Yeah. But it's just a tweak and a bit more of a directed community of like-minded people for sort of thing. I'm pretty excited about it. But so I'm just that sort of stuff. And just obviously scaling Trademutt and building out what we're doing here and improving our impact and expanding our impact basically, and getting this podcast we're doing out to more people. Just growing a community basically.
No, that's a really, really good thing that you're doing there. Growing it as a brand, community, a way of life in a way.
Well, people don't. There's too many businesses out there that it's just so, driven by driven by sales and just hard sells and marketing and just buy. Whereas we're really more of bringing people in, letting them understand our message, what we do, why we do it, and if they want to be a part of it, there's something here that can make them a part of it, if that makes sense. I think, and we try to be completely different to anything else out there. I mean, I don't think enough businesses out there care for their customer. Once someone comes through our door, we want to keep them and give them as much value post-purchase as possible, rather than try and sell on the world, give them something and then see them out the back door. It's sort of, we always try and follow up, see how people are going, how the shirts are, the impact they're making. That's what we give a shit about, basically.
Yeah. And I guess with the Australian market, you sort of gone to most corners of Australia, like all over Australia.
Yeah, pretty much. Australia-wide, Tassie, NT. There's every state and territory we've sold a shirt into. Yeah. Starting to sell some into New Zealand now.
Really good. That's great.
A couple into Britain, Canada.
Germany, Antarctica.
Yeah, Antarctica. Yeah. It's getting around.
Gee, it's really getting around.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I like that it's getting to Germany and Europe.
Europe. Yeah, Scotland one was the other day. So it's pretty cool.
And is that just through the presence on social media?
Well, other people, like obviously everyone in Australia who we've got a shirt on, they've got their own networks and they're posting stuff on Instagram or whatever, and they've got connections all over the world. So it's amazing how it spreads, and because as Ed said earlier, they stand out. There's nothing else like them. They market themselves, so they do insight. They just spark the conversation they're intended to, whether it's what is that Larry shirt, or once people even understand the meaning behind them, it gets them going. So amazing how they get out there.
So what sort of music do you guys into? Any genres in particular, or do you like a bit of everything?
I like a bit of everything. My favourite movie, one of my favourite movies is the Blues Brothers. I grew up playing the bass guitar, inspired by Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So Chili Peppers. I played in jazz bands growing up, concert band. Love music. Love the. I love team stuff. I like teamwork, and there's nothing like a band playing in perfect, perfectly together. It's just the best. So I love that.
Yeah.
Something I miss, actually. I'd like to get back into playing in bands, but
go on then.
You make time for the stuff you want to do, don't you?
You do, yeah.
And country and western over here.
Yeah, both types of music.
Both types.
Country and western. Nah, I love Johnny Cash. I can listen to pretty much anything except really modern day stuff. But I really like Johnny Cash and that stuff. Yeah, it's probably my road trip stuff.
We like singing
together. We do like singing.
We like doing spontaneous
songs.
Karaoke
bars as well.
No, just in the office, distracting everyone.
Building site. We
actually,
sing a lot on building sites.
12th Man's probably the thing I love listening to the most.
Yes.
Yeah. But,
how classic is the 12th Man?
It's all on Spotify and Apple Music now, so it's great.
I just remember growing up as a kid and just listening to the 12th Man, Billy Birmingham, and it's just crazy. Yeah,
he was interviewed on the Batuta Advocate podcast, and it was really cool. He was talking about how people would write to him and just thank him for what he'd done, because there was a guy that had written to him and said, thanks for everything you've done, because every Christmas my father and uncle and I would go out and sit in the garage and drink stubbies and listen to the 12th Man, and that was sort of the only time he spent with his father. Like, that was the only connection he had with his father, with these 12th Man records. It was really quite profound, like the impact, just that, comedy, satire stuff, meant to people, rather than just a piss take. It was like something that was a big moment in his life.
Yeah, it's so funny that Richie Benaud, and how crazy he was.
Oh, it's hilarious. Yeah, and he used to write whenever he'd make a new album. He'd send it to Richie to critique, and he'd always send back, quite nice, but still too much swearing and a few other things, and a few of the voices are a bit off, but it's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, I think he did Richie and Bill and Tony pretty well. And
oh yeah, Bill and Tony. Well, the best part was how he wrote the Boned. Like, his last album was literally, he wrote. It was sort of like what Seinfeld did. He wrote his own story into the last story and won. Sort of, he took the piss out of all of them and beat them and took their jobs off them, and it was brilliant.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Did you listen to that much growing up? Or?
I've listened to bits and pieces of 12 Man.
Yeah.
I certainly love, like, when I've listened to it, I love it, but I can't quote it the way that Ed can.
I listened to it too many times.
I'm a huge cricket.
And
Java side of
Yeah.
bed, yeah.
Jar,
It's
Vegemite for me and
Aussie
Dad.
acronym.
Yeah, what's the acronym? Yeah. It's great. Love it.
The pronunciation of the Sri Lankans' names.
Yeah.
What do you mean, was he?
Keep a jar of Vegemite beside. Yeah, so was it?
Keep my teeth in a Java side of bed.
I keep my teeth in a jar beside the bed. or a jar of Vegemite for me and Dad.
That's it. Yeah.
But yeah, that's some classic stuff there. But that's sort of descended from the music.
Yeah. Sorry.
But that's okay. What about travelling? Have you guys sort of travelled much around the world, and what have you seen that you've liked, and where's the ideal holiday destination?
For me, I've done all of Asia. I've been to the States, places like New Zealand, Tasmania,
Yeah,
right
I
overseas.
was born there, so
Oh, yeah?
yeah.
I thought something was off. So I haven't been to Europe. I'd like
You've got
to
to do Europe.
I'd like to get to Europe. I'd love to do South America.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but I certainly like travelling and getting out when I can.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, you know the answer to this. Dan knows. I went to Italy for my honeymoon. It was phenomenal. We're going back again.
Great.
Yeah, it was the best. Can't get enough of it.
I got married in Vegas.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Bloody hell. Yeah, right.
Not obviously.
Was that a planned wedding?
It was a planned wedding. We've been married. What's that? 7 years nearly.
Yep.
Yeah, 7 years in next month. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Don't forget that. You'll be in big trouble.
No, I've already worked out. I won't be in town. So
Oh, no.
I already booked a little trip with one of my mates across to Auckland to see the UFC.
Yeah, right.
That weekend.
Who are you seeing?
The main event's Dan Hooker he's a Kiwi, against Paul Felder.
Yeah, right.
In the main event. So yeah, I've been to Auckland before to watch UFC back in 2017. It was quite great, and just a beautiful place. Go to Waiheke Island for a day as well.
Yeah, nice.
Amazing.
Yeah. But the UFC, so the big fight this weekend, do you follow much of the UFC?
I just like Conor McGregor, to be perfectly honest with you. I can't get enough of him. He's great.
I do like Conor McGregor, but have you heard Cowboy Cerrone's podcast with Joe Rogan?
Yeah, is there one not one this week though? Is there?
No. So
I saw one. I listened to one a couple of years ago now.
He's got a crazy story of a diving incident, and I won't go into it, but basically it was like a life or death scenario when he was he does cave
cave
underwater cave diving. And the bloke he was with did something completely wrong, panicked, kicked up all this mud. They didn't have enough oxygen, couldn't see in front of him. The bloke he was down there with died, and Cerrone only just got out. Yeah,
Jeez, I don't know why I didn't know that.
Yeah, crazy story. Yeah.
It would be a crazy story.
Mm. And like, if you're like me and that sort of thing makes you
like
claustrophobic, like that, the idea of underwater scuba, like in caves.
Yeah, it's not my idea of fun.
Yeah, so that was hectic. So, but yeah, I digress. I do like Cowboy Cerrone and Conor McGregor.
It's going to be a good fight this Sunday. Definitely been looking forward to Conor getting back in there for quite a while. This time he seems to be a lot more focused. I saw the press conference today. That was on today. It was very subdued.
Was it?
Very subdued, very professional. Handshaking 3 times. They shake each other's hand. Very, very unlike Conor McGregor.
I think he's got. Well, if he loses this, he's going to really tarnish his reputation.
He will certainly tarnish his reputation. So
this
is the only time we've ever seen Conor McGregor go into a press conference disrespectful and this, subdued.
He needs to. Yeah, I mean, what
it means he could be focused.
I think both of those blokes have a lot of respect for each other. They've both done a lot. These guys are stalwarts of the UFC. I think they've both done a lot in fighting, and so
certainly Cowboy, the all-time leader in wins.
So that'd be interesting.
It's going to be a bloody good fight.
Yeah, definitely be. everyone's looking forward to that, and I'm sure they'll break some more records.
Yeah.
I want the trilogy to happen with
Nate.
Diaz.
Yeah.
It's 1-1 isn't it?
Yeah, they haven't. Yeah, that was back in 2016. They did the 2 fights.
That's right.
Feels like a long time.
It was 4 years ago, pretty much. It's
Yeah.
coming up to 4 years ago for and that's when he started really breaking records. After he did auto in 13 seconds.
That's right. Shit.
He and then he had the boxing match, as we know, with Floyd Mayweather and lost to Khabib when he was, underestimated him, I think. So that's coming up this weekend. And what else is sort of going on with you guys at the moment? You're obviously working on a lot of stuff. What's the year been like? Pretty busy start to the year.
Chaotic, but yeah, going well. Just expanding the product lines, basically. Punching out the new podcasts. Starting to looking for new space at the moment because we've run out of space in this office. Basically,
How long have you been in this space for?
1 year. Yep. 1 year we've been here. So
expanded the team towards the end of last year, which was massive for us.
Yep.
Don't think either of us probably could envisage the caliber of potential staff members that that would come on that would fit for us. But the right people have come along at the right time and fit perfectly. So we've got brings new challenges, expanding a team. Obviously, we need more space, and we're going to continue to expand. And so we're navigating all the challenges of business that most people have to navigate. But it's happening pretty hard and fast for us. But luckily, we've got a really good team around us who are got our best interests in mind as well. So it's great.
So I guess you guys working together, you've known each other for some time now, 5-6 years, as we said at the top of the show. I guess you guys probably seem to get along very, very well. But I guess your role,
no, just joking. Yeah.
I guess your roles as owners of the business fairly well defined. Like you don't cross each other. You don't sort of cross each other.
Needs to be.
No, we've got our roles clearly defined, but we're also both heavily opinionated about each other's roles. But we make time for having those discussions now. Do you know what I mean? So I head up the marketing side, the messaging, the social media, the comms. Ed heads up the sales side and probably the more business development side of things.
Yeah, so that's fairly well defined. You do that, and you do that.
Yeah,
Yep.
And also they're both supernatural roles for us. There's no arm wrestling about who's doing what. It was just it's pretty naturally defined. So that's really good. But yeah, it certainly helps. I mean, I remember the early days when we were navigating that, and we were both crossing over.
Yeah,
like shit, who's doing what? But yeah, no, it's happened the way it's happened. It's really good.
So what do you think the hardest thing about going into business together? What are some of the lessons you may have learned so far, and what do you expect to sort of get in the future?
Back yourself, basically. Probably for us was... Yeah, probably there was a bit there where we took the foot off the throttle and gave it to someone else to sort of... We put too much trust in other people to help and subcontracting and stuff like that, whereas... Yeah, you just sort of got to grit your teeth. Obviously, you got to make mistakes and learn from them. And you'd never know if it's right. Sort of at the time, you've got to go with your gut. You know what I mean? So that's probably a big thing for us. Is just sort of backing yourself and what does Tony Robbins say? Burn the boats. Just fucking all in and go at it.
Yeah, and I think another big thing, like we formed our relationship on the building side, and then in forming this business, we, for a quite a long period of time, working 7 days a week, so 5 days a week for the builder that we worked for, and then weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, long days, doing our own stuff, saving the cash to start this business. So we tested our business relationship in a big way in the early days, doing that kind of stuff. And I mean, we're like probably more like brothers than mates because we blew with each other like brothers, but we get along like best mates as well. Do you know what I mean? So we, in terms of our relationship together in business, we're never afraid to have it out with each other, and we stew on stuff for a short amount of time, and we kiss and make up the same day, and we move on. And so I think that's probably one of the most important things, one of the cornerstones of our business, and our number one value, I suppose, is transparency. And so that's transparency between the two of us and in business in general. And I think that's probably one of the most important things, that you actually have that ability to be completely open with each other and there's no bullshit there, so that helps a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, people certainly, if people work sort of with you guys, I think they can learn quite a lot about how it's not always a sort of normal working business relationship, but it works. Like you guys.
Well, there is no perfect business relationship.
No.
I wouldn't think.
But I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm saying it works. All right, it works, and it works because of the traits that you guys bring to the table, and you obviously respect one another.
Yeah.
In such a way that you know what each of you are good at.
Yeah.
You know that your work ethic is pretty much on par. All that sort of stuff.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Because so many people think shit's just going to happen.
Yep.
And it just fucking does not happen. You do have to get in, grit your fucking teeth, do days that are long and shit and hard work, and stuff goes wrong, and you got to you have massive fuck ups, but it's just sort of you've just got to get on and get it fixed and keep the show rolling.
I literally think we couldn't be more opposite and complementary, which is perfect in business, and that's something that we stumbled on.
No, you know where your limitations are.
Exactly right, and so that is perfect for the business. But where it really counts, we are exactly the same, and that's a sense of humour and like things like sport, Conor McGregor, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So with those things that bind us. For me, that's the most important thing because
we are fortunate.
We always retain that, but then with all the other stuff in the business and the running of the different sides of the business, we're opposite and complementary, which is an accident, a perfect accident.
Definitely helps being able to have been working together and starting from the ground up together. Definitely helps. Yeah.
Mm. So what you guys are sort of bringing across is a very strong message. You're promoting a very strong message. With mental health being an issue. If we go back in time, and I've spoken to my dad, my parents about this, and back in the old days, I guess if it was an issue with mental health, people didn't looked completely different back then as people are starting to look on mental health now.
People didn't know what it was,
and they didn't know what it was. There was you'd hear only very low number of people that you would hear. The dad said when he grew up, only knew one person that committed suicide or something. But we're going through a different generation now, where we sort of the kids are growing up differently to how their parents were growing up, and these social factors. One of the things that's really I think. From what I've seen and what we've discussed, one of the biggest things that does affect people's mental health is in the last 10 years it's been social media and the whole impact that social media has had on the way people actually think about things. What have you found with social media?
Well, the social media side, it's a massive, I could talk about that for hours, but the way, this is another TED talk I listened to over Christmas, and it was a guy. He was speaking about how one of the main contributing factors to people having really poor mental health this day and age is that we don't have tribes anymore. We don't have our communities. And there's so much infighting. And you just go on social media now, and someone will put especially anything political or whatever, climate change. It's just there's no reasoning behind anything anymore, and there's just so much yelling and screaming, and you're wrong, I'm right.
Social media is giving idiots a voice.
Fuck you, it's a nightmare, right?
Yeah.
So we're actually, there's too much, even though the ironic thing is on a global scale, it's the least conflict ever in history, ever. But from a actual social person, we've never been further drifted apart, even though we're so connected as well at the same time. So it's sort of it was talking about how they were doing case studies in Manhattan. They were getting people who severe depression and social anxiety and suicidal tendencies. They gathered them all together and said, we want you guys to come together once a week and do some sort of activity together. And you can't talk about stuff that makes you upset. We want to happiness and joy and bring people together. And what they did, they decided to create a community garden, and their symptoms just absolutely fell away. They'd never been happier. They came together. They had a sense of belonging and community, and they had friends, and they strived off that. And it was really interesting to see or hear that made such a big difference. And I think now, more than ever, that's what we need, is to get back and be a part of a broader group of people that are like-minded and willing to hear you out and get stuff off your chest, basically.
And that's what we're doing with Trademutt.
That's what we're doing.
The Trademutt shirts are obviously about starting conversations and human interaction on a face-to-face level, but also this conversation about social media. It's a hilarious one because it's one of the cornerstones of our business, and so we're using it for what we perceive to be good. But I guess that's up to. Well, that's what we think anyway. I'm sure that we're trying to put some good vibes out there through social media, so it's an awesome tool. But I don't think we fully understand the repercussions of this social shift yet fully. Like it's we're only just scratching the surface of it now and the effects that it's got.
I guess other sort of people that are sort of pushing the same, not the same, but in the same breath, as far as being mental health aware and all that sort of thing, that are doing great things in this part of the world. Is there anybody else there that's sort of giving you guys sort of checks, inspiration, that sort of thing?
Checks, inspiration, probably more motivation to do what we're doing. A lot of there's just so much stuff out there that just seems far too surface level, and there's just sort of not enough. It's just not enough action. So our social enterprise workwear company is activating people on a daily basis. So getting people to talk about mental health through these shirts, but then we've got our non-for-profit foundation as well. That's going to be the actual tangible change and the real shift in helping people on a long-term basis, basically, and really try and shift the statistics that we're seeing at the moment.
There can't be enough. I don't think in this space there can't be enough awareness and positive work going on. It'd be great if I think a lot of the messaging out there could be better and is missing the mark for the actual sort of the target audience. I suppose this is the biggest issue for 14 to 44-year-old blokes, and I think a lot of people understand that statistic, but they forget that when they're actually communicating about mental health, and they're actually forgetting that these are the types of people that need to be kind of understand and retain the message. It'd be good if we could. That's I think what we're trying to do, is take it down to a much more sort of relatable level for that demographic specifically, because they're the ones that need it more than any. But of course, there's a whole lot of age brackets, and there's no one that's unaffected by mental health. So
the thing that sort of comes out is it doesn't, obviously with mental health, it doesn't discriminate with age.
Well, we've all got mental health. That's the thing. People just don't seem to, all fully understand and grasp. It's like we've all got it. We need to start looking after it.
And everyone is literally seconds away at any point in their life from a traumatic event that will completely change their circumstance. And if you don't understand mental health, or if it's something that you haven't been affected by, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah,
it's only a matter of time until a traumatic event happens in your life, like losing a loved one for whatever reason, that can completely flip your world upside down.
Yeah, and you've seen so many times over the years where how that affects people.
For sure,
It's what else have I got there? So I guess any sort of final messages or any sort of advice for the listeners of the podcast or the Brisbane generally?
Probably, I don't know. Our focus this month is sort of, resetting routine and self-assessment, I suppose, isn't it? Just checking in with yourself, seeing where you're at, making yourself the priority, just seeing where you're at and where you want to go, basically.
For sure. I wrote an article in the Mutt Chronicle, which you can find on the Trademutt website. But
yes, I had a quick look at the website.
Related to purpose, and blokes, a lot of blokes out there feeling like they don't have a purpose, or don't know what their purpose in life is, and being stuck in dead end jobs. But I suppose the message that I'd like to get across is do whatever the hell it is that you want to do today, because it's all you've got. Just have a crack and stop giving a shit about what anyone thinks of you. You know.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's easy to say that when you're in a good frame of mind.
Yeah.
It's about trying to. Geez, I wish I could give self-confidence to people and just like hand it to them.
There you go.
Here you go.
Bing.
You know what I mean?
So
It'd be
handy.
great.
Interesting. I mean, I was looking at these last 2 years as different sort of themes. When I sort of was doing the podcast in January last year, I sort of tried to coin 2019 as the year of confidence.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
Okay? Sort of caught on a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened was, Triple J's Hottest 100, the winning song was Confidence by Ocean Alley. I don't know if you knew that, but...
I remember listening to that, yes.
And there's another band getting around, Confidence Man.
Yeah, I've seen Confidence Man live too. I love them. They're great. They're fantastic. Saw them once at the Trifford. But yeah, that was the year of confidence, 2009. And I think, the way you want to coin a year like 2020 is you want to sort of give it a sort of moniker of not so much new beginnings. Everyone's begun, but more of a case of what you guys are sort of bringing through in your message. Is it's all about it's all about being good blokes, a community, good community.
Yeah.
It's all about making the community better.
Yeah.
Building better communities is what Apex, what one of our taglines that we've used in Apex over the years, on the back of the shirts. Building better communities is what we should be striving to do, and there's plenty of ways that can happen.
Yeah, definitely. I think probably just looking after yourself first, and then then you're going to be a good contributing factor to that community that you're in. Basically, I think that's a big thing we try and focus on is making yourself a big priority.
I think in retrospect, we have got off to a fairly good start from some of that messaging with the way I guess people in Australia and around the world have supported. What's happening in the bushfires, for example.
Yeah,
there's been a very good support when it comes to certainly with funds donated.
Definitely. Yeah.
They've raised a lot more funds than they probably should when you think about it.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Which is incredible, and it just shows you that people care and that Australians are very charitable people. They really are, and even a lot of overseas countries have now sort of shown their hand as that they can be charitable as well. And we don't know that some of these countries are like that because we never see it.
Yeah.
So it's good to see, support from people in America.
What have we got like
the UFC, for example, threw in $250,000. So
yeah, and I think there was $250,000 or $500,000 from Vanuatu. This is a poor country.
Very small, very poor.
Australian dollars?
Well,
That's just a joke. I'm just joking.
You stumped me.
We'll find that out. But I think that's the final message. Yeah, I really thank you guys for coming on the podcast today. We'll get this uploaded. You can share it around, but you guys are certainly going to keep very busy anyway with your own podcast.
Thanks, Timmy, yeah.
But thank you very much for letting me take an hour of your time today.
No worries.
And it's been great to meet you both. Hope we can catch up again down the track. I know
Definitely.
Brisbane's a small place. We'll probably run into each other one day, or I'm sure
When we're building that community.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. It was 10 years ago. It was that the floods were in existence. Not 10.
20.
9 years ago.
2010. Yeah, 9. Yeah,
So
right. Yeah.
that showed how much of a community Brisbane was.
The Mud Army.
The Mud Army. I was part of that.
I was part of that
great.
too.
Yeah.
Epic.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, thanks very much. That was Ed, Ross, Daniel, Alan, Trademutt. Great workwear clothing, very bright, lots of colours, lots of different designs. Have a look at the Facebook page. Just Google Facebook Trademutt. Trademutt.com, is it?
Yeah, that's it.
For the website. It's certainly great what these guys have done. And it's obviously the underlying message here, we've got to look after one another. Everyone has got mental health that they need looked after as well. So thank you very much, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
No worries.